When social media first came into existence, it was a revolution. It allowed us to connect with people we may never have met in person, seeing their lives unfold before us in real time. But as the years have gone by, so has the proliferation of social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and now TikTok, where we follow and connect with celebrities, fall in love with trending dance challenges, receive breaking news from all around the world being hidden by major news outlets. TikTok is the fastest growing platform, outpacing the others. But there's a dark side to this new age social media, where people are getting harassed in the thousands. Accounts suspended, racism thrives here. Personal information getting doxxed, people losing their jobs from being exposed, and sexual assault allegations being raised against people. I appreciate you taking the time to come talk to me. This is the hardest part of your story, and I just want to jump into it.
Let's do it.
All right. Did you sexually assault the content creator, Police of the God?
I did not.
Have you ever been accused of any sexual assault allegations before this?
Never.
So, from your recollection, why did this all start?
A great deal of what I feel that this started is because I denied her access to my platform. Around the time that I met her in California, she, upon leaving, mentioned on her platform, well, on another content creator's platform, they recorded a phone call against her understanding. And they stated in that phone call that I sexually assaulted another person. And in that, again, it was false. So I called her immediately and was like, yo, what's going on with this? And she said, well, I gotta go look at the video. And I'm like, it's your voice. Like, I'm not understanding what you mean you have to go look at. She didn't know that the recording even existed. So she said in that, I said what I said. And I was confused because I'm just like, you don't just throw things like that around at a person. I was sexually assaulted when I was 13 and when I was 16. This isn't something to play with. So in that, I hit that person up immediately and was like, yo, did you tell her this? And she said no. Then I texted to her because I thought to myself, I need to get some receipts. Because if in fact this does blow up, I need to make sure that I have you saying both verbally as well as via text message that this never happened. That individual ended up making a video stating, I Speak, which is my TikTok name, I Speak 1906, never sexually assaulted me. And anyone that states this is a liar. In that, people just started coming for her, something crazy. Now, before that, what ended up happening was the young lady that she was with made her very uncomfortable in something that she did. And she asked me for access to my platform to talk about it. And I'm just like, just to come out of the blue with a random topic, it just doesn't make sense. So, you know, you're a veteran, I'm active duty, let's tie it into the military. She said, okay, cool. After the situation happened with the random recording is what I call it, I told her, no, I don't trust you, and you're not getting access to my platform. That spiraled into her falsely accusing me of sexually assaulting her, then going back on it, then coming back to it, then going back on it, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow, that's intense. From all the evidence and all the TikToks that I went through, I couldn't find any reports being formally filed. I know that you started following yourself. You reported yourself when you wanted,
Yes.
So has anybody else filed any formal allegations against you or report or anything like that?
Nothing was ever formally filed with anybody, not NCIS, not the North Carolina Police Department, specifically in Fayetteville. Nothing was ever filed, which was the biggest point of contention that NCIS had of, I can't use, people don't understand. When you're in the military, right, the JAG, the Judge Advocate General, you cannot, as a service member, weaponize the services of JAG against a civilian, especially if they haven't filed anything. So essentially, you would be licensing JAG to go on offense against a civilian. They don't have jurisdiction over civilians. They have it over us as service members. Okay. So in that, they informed me that once this individual files something, then what we can do is we can hold space for a conversation of a full investigation. Because she had been harassing NCIS literally around the world, I went and opened the case myself. because I wanted this to be fully done and over with, and I recognized that she was bringing this to the, quote, court of public opinion. And when you have a large platform on social media, sometimes he or she or they, be inclusive, that controls the narrative, they control the outcome of your future on social media and in life, period. We understand socially how people, recognize sexual predators, rapists, child molesters, which are all narratives that she tried to paint about me. If he'll do this to a grown adult, what do you think he'll do to a child? Even his own. These are things that she would say, and people wouldn't understand the magnitude of why I felt the way I felt. These are not light allegations. This is not something that you just play with. So in that, I recognize that me denying her access is what started this entire storm.
And I understand about when it comes to, the court of public opinion. We've watched the Me Too movement. We watch people get canceled continuously. We've seen people get canceled for, having racist remarks online. The proverbial Karens and the Kens. We've seen that happen multiple times. Amber Heard.
Because again, the social dynamic, and I think what played a huge part here too, was the, quote, believe the victim crowd, right?
Right.
And I use air quotes not to minimize, the understanding of believing the victim. It was more so people that would tell me, hey, I rock with you, but I'm on the standpoint of believe the victim. And we believe her to be a victim, so therefore, we're gonna side with her for now until we see more evidence and we see more conclusive evidence, proving that you didn't do this. I never had an issue with those individuals. It was the consistent changing of the story. First it was I did it. Then it was I never did it. Then it was I kinda did it. Then it was I did it. Then it was I didn't do it. And people don't understand what that does to a person's mental, especially one that is a survivor themselves and has a large platform, because we recognize that showing certain emotion on social media when going through certain situations, people are always quick to flip it.
Right.
So if I'd have been crying on live every single day, crying through my content, it'd have been, oh, he's doing that because he's guilty, not because he's a survivor himself. And we understand the dynamic of what has happened to women over the course of our history and what has happened to men over the course of our history. And we can have the conversation independent of one another without playing the oppression Olympics of them together. So in that, they're looking at this as a black woman saying that another black man sexually assaulted her. There are individuals that are drawing on their own experiences. There are individuals that are currently in that exact situation. They're looking at that like I can identify, instead of objectively stepping back and saying, well, wait a minute, let me take a look at everything that's going on here and then make a conclusive decision from there.
What I've been wanting to know is, how did the other content creators like Blaze and official Tanya Michelle, and there's a couple other ones, how do they know the truth when they weren't even there when all this supposedly or allegedly happened? So how do they get this information to say that you're automatically guilty?
They don't. That's the short answer. They don't. With him specifically, and with that entire group, what I recognize is that one of them came on my platform, Tanya Michelle. Blaze came on a couple times, but it was nothing very serious or poignant to even acknowledge. But Tanya Michelle said something to me that really put a lot of things into perspective for me. She said that her and Blaze came together more specifically for another content creator, their mutual dislike of another content creator. And in that, I've always been taught that there's no honor among thieves at all. So these people genuinely don't like each other, genuinely don't know each other, genuinely don't have a relationship, but they're coming together over their mutual dislike of other content creators. And some of us have just essentially caught strays. That's essentially what ended up happening. So when he brought her story back to the forefront, it was more so, ha ha, got you moment. Not realizing that at this point, you had sat dormant from January to damn near June. And I said absolutely nothing. I had dealt with it. I did the preliminary investigation with JAG. They said, listen, we got a username and a phone number. That's it. They've never filed anything, so we can't do anything. So I said the day before New Year's, I said, I'm no longer talking about this. This is done. This is dead to me. If you're not gonna file anything, I'm good on you. That's when she popped back up in June when Blaze brought her up. He doesn't know. Tanya doesn't know. But because of their mutual dislike of me, they're able to license the validity of calling me a sexual predator, calling me a sexual deviant, calling people that I hang out with and that I commune with predator defenders, calling them predators with absolutely no evidence whatsoever that they themselves had did anything or there were any accusations toward them. I've never been accused of this. I've never been convicted of anything. I don't even have a criminal record. They tried to take Tanya, she did what's called a soft pull. I didn't even know what that was. Essentially put in my name, my location, where I was born at, and my age. And all of this stuff came up about me, about, different cars that I had, different residences that I lived at, siblings, et cetera, et cetera. And in that, there was an unspecified charge on my account. Again, I don't have a record. They sat up and said that that charge was of a sexual nature, and they knew it. And for literally almost a whole day, had hundreds of people convening in a live stating that they know that that charge is of a sexual nature. So I go and I look at the charge myself from the screenshots that they posted because, again, I didn't even think about it. It was a dismissed speeding ticket from when I was in college. And I was just so disgusted by that because, again, I'm just like, y'all don't understand. If I would have never gotten this paperwork from NCIS, from the Freedom of Information Act, who's to say that one of their followers that might have felt, validated to do something physically to me or to someone in my family because of the things that you're saying, not necessarily because they're true, but because they're consistently listening to you. They're consistently hearing what they feel as though is your pain when really and truly is cap, like right off the muscle. So in that, I was just like, I have to do what I need to do legally at this point because it's going beyond just you do a video, I do a video. You do a video, I do a video. It's done. Most disagreements or content disagreements, as I call them, they can be handled on social media. But when we talk about beef and drama, where I'm from, beef results in somebody pulling up. Right. You know what I'm saying? And something genuinely happening, So I had to dispel that on social media, but also to make sure that I myself am taking the necessary steps in order to rectify and clear my name, both publicly and legally.
Bro, sound like this has been stressful. This has been going on for about a year?
Yep.
And no charges were ever filed on her behalf?
Nothing.
So has she posted any evidence that could substantiate her story at all on TikTok or social media?
Not a single piece of evidence. One of the things that she boasts and brags about is this congressional investigation that she say is happening. She contacted a congressman, I can't remember his name for the life of me, but...
Is this about the congressional investigation that everybody was talking about?
Yes. So in that, what happened was she contacted a congressman to put an inquiry, which for all intents and purposes is just asking a question. Hey, what's going on with this? To NCIS, and boasts that that is what started a congressional investigation, and there was none. Congress never filed anything against NCIS. They never filed anything against me because it don't work like that. What they would do is they would contact NCIS, see what's going on. They would compare notes if in fact it was substantial, and then they would take the findings back if in fact that was necessary. Clearly it wasn't. And on top of that, that's above my pay grade.
Can you explain to me, I think one of the weirdest turns that took in this whole thing that I've been going through all the TikToks, there were so many videos I was trying to watch, but some of the videos were removed. Mm-hmm. So who's the young white lady that they hired to say, or I'm not gonna say they hired, but they allegedly hired to say that you sexually assaulted her too?
Yes, that was a doozy. That one was definitely a doozy. Again, still don't even know who this young lady is. Apparently she said that they contacted her on TikTok, then took the conversation over to Instagram, prepped her, and all they told her was my username and what the story was to tell. So she hops on Police's Live. She hopped in her comment section first. Said on this date at this time, he sexually assaulted me in Atlanta. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you're given a specific date and a specific time. What is this about? So long story short, one of my supporters ended up finding her Cash App, which led us to her real name, which led us to her Facebook, which led us to her Instagram. Only to find out on that exact same day, she had a picture posted on Instagram with her boyfriend. So now we're confused. Like, well, wait a minute. This specific day that you're saying that you were in Atlanta, you literally posted this in a completely different location. Well, what she wasn't counting on was me having 1.6 million followers. And in 24 hours, we had her name, her mama name, her daddy name, her brother name, what car she drive, where she's staying at, all that. Just because people, the amount of information, let me pause to make a point really quickly. The amount of public information that's out there about people, scary. So I tell people all the time, go on these third-party sites, get your information off of there. because people say, oh, it's not doxing because it's public information. And they can literally type in your first name, your last name, your phone number, and they can get almost your entire rental history. They can get any car you've ever purchased because, again, and the amount of information that's made public, scary. So in that, listening to her on the live, she said, I met her in Atlanta at some bar. First of all, anyone that knows me knows I don't even frequent bars at all. I go to lounges and I may go to a club from time to time. And when I go to the club, I'm in the VIP. You know, I'm sophisticated, you know what I'm saying? I'm sophisticated, but I can be ratchet too, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So in that, it was just weird, the context of what you're already talking about. Then she's white. I've dated a few white women over the course of my life, but my affinity is for black women, and I'm married. So in that, it was just like, what? She said, I approached her at a bar and I attempted to get her attention. And she said, no, she's not interested, And I tried to flex my social media platform. That already was a red flag. For me, social media has always been extra. I'm a published author, award-winning public speaker, spoken word artist, and recording artist. I have plenty of other things to my name than my social media. It's always just been extra. And I've been so blessed that my supporters have gifted me that platform because while it can be here today, it can be gone tomorrow. So in that saying that I flexed my social media platform to say, do you know, what'd she say? Do you know who I am? And I'm like, I don't even talk like that. You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, what? So she said I grabbed her arm aggressively, so much so that I started pulling on her hair and pulled some of her hair out. And I'm just like, what? Then she said I followed her to her car and that one of the managers or something like that walked her out to the car as well, and that I tried to gain access to her vehicle, and she backed up, rolled the window down and said, if you want me, you're gonna have to chase me. Someone that's genuinely in fear is not doing all of that. So as I'm listening to this, I'm just like, this is wild. Because you're saying this with full confidence, knowing that you're lying. So after I blasted her the next day on my social media, found out all of the information that I found out, apparently she started receiving death threats, unbeknownst to me. So she hit me up on Instagram. I would like to come on your platform and clear my name, My first question, why should I trust you? You literally just went on this platform, this woman's platform, knowing that you've never met me, knowing that this situation never happened. Why would I trust you? Then she reveals to me that she was behind on her, that there were promises of cash apps, but she didn't go deep into it. I said, promises of, okay, cool. So she decides to come on my platform. I said, okay, I'll hold space for you. I allow her to come on my platform. And I'm literally just asking her like, why? Why would you do this? Knowing that this was not true. For all intents and purposes, she revealed that she never met me. She revealed that on that exact same day that she said it happened, the picture that was posted on her Instagram, she wasn't even in Atlanta. She was in Colorado with her boyfriend. Then she acknowledged that two of the individuals, Tanya and Polisa, had had preemptive conversations with her to prep her to tell this story. And that I asked her at the end of it, well, what was this worth? Like, was it worth it to you, essentially? Like, why did you do this? Well, I'm, kind of behind on my rent. And, she reiterated that there were promises of cash apps, which I can only surmise would be sympathy cash apps. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, at this point, I said, you did all of this for, and I paused. I said, how much are you behind on your rent? She said, $2,000. I said, so my life was worth $2,000 to you?
Wow. For
you to get on social media as a white woman, knowing the historical connotations that come along with white women accusing black men of sexual assault. My life was worth $2,000 to you? She was like, I don't really have, much of an excuse. Like, I just kind of want to make this better. I'm like, better? Other than you telling the truth, I don't understand how you could have thought that this was going to end either way. Come to find out, she didn't know anything about my platform. All she had was a username and a story. And then she acknowledged to me that she felt as though she, quote, bit off more than she could chew in terms of the pressure that came along with her falsely accusing me and then stating that, of course, allegedly, because nothing's been proven, that they assisted her in putting this story together.
Sorry that you're going through all this. This is like a movie that's going on right now. There's been so much stuff that's been going on TikTok that I've been trying to find, there's like thousands of videos of you posting, Blaze posting, Police of the God posting, Tanya posting, and then people who follow everybody. They're making all these, like they're taking the clip and then they're clipping it and then they're chopping it. So it's never really a full story. So then I gotta go in and try to piece everything together. I didn't even know it was that deep at all. Can you explain to me how's this taking a toll on your family? You were talking about, well, let me go back a little bit. You had to, what was it, your bank statements? You had to show your bank statements on TikTok to prove where you were at that time.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So one of the things that I thought to do in this, because I thought the easiest way, it's one thing to talk to her, which was no guarantee. I did not count on her hitting me up to talk to me, because in my mind I'm thinking, if she's convening with them, she's not gonna talk to me. She's never gonna talk to me. So what do I do? What do I know best to do to clear my name legitimately? The first thing I thought to do was to go to my cell phone provider. I have T-Mobile. So I went to them and said, hey, would it be possible for you all to get me my geolocation on between this period and this period? They said, well, no, because two things. Number one, I didn't have the geolocation turned on my phone. And then two, in order to get it from the company, I would have to hire a lawyer. They would have to subpoena the company for the information. That's doing too much. I need it now. The second thing I thought to myself was, I swipe my card almost every day. I don't carry cash for that exact reason, so that I have a decent paper trail, and I'm a little OCD with my money, just because I want to know where my money is going. So each month I do an analysis of where the majority of my money went, so that I can understand, okay, what do I need to cut back on? What do I need to increase? Just good financial management, or financial literacy, if you will. So in that, I said, I can go pull my bank statements. I know that the bank is gonna have it. I can't access it online because online it only goes back but so far. And this was literally a year ago. So in that, I was like, I'm gonna go sit down with the teller. I bank with Navy Federal. I said, boom, I'm gonna go sit down, with a representative, and I'm gonna get the information. After I got the information, I came back. I showed on that day, the day before, that day, and the day after. Then they wanted me to show, I'm sorry. I showed the day before and the day of. Then someone else commented, well, why don't you show the day after? Because in order to get from here to Atlanta and back within 24 hours, it would be literally impossible for me to swipe my card. Then the next narrative was there were two different charges on the exact same day because my wife is an authorized user on my account. My account at that point in time had over $1,000 in it. There would be no reason for her to use two different cards on the exact same account on the exact same day. That literally makes no sense. So I dispelled that narrative as well. And then that woman literally just almost like faded to the darkness, almost like she never existed. She told me she was gonna get her data from TikTok. Apparently there was a discrepancy with that. And then she's still waiting for her data from Instagram to prove that there was communication between her and Tanya Michelle on Instagram to prep for this story.
One of the other topics I wanted to touch base on is what is the narrative that you've been kicked out the military? Like I've been seeing it on so many videos about you being, and then there was a gentleman who didn't believe your re-enlistment video. I believe it's your re-enlistment video. And I guess it was the mirror effect from selfie camera to the back camera. So tell us, are you kicked out the military?
No, I actually just re-enlisted for 6 years. That narrative came again from their camp. They said that I was in the process of being dishonorably discharged and that I was gonna go on the sex offenders registry in Philadelphia and I was gonna have to move back home. And again, I'm confused because I'm just like, where are you coming up with this? Like, they literally just make stuff up and then believe it. It literally made no sense to me. Actively, I was already going through the process of putting my paperwork in. I actually ended up having to extend out my date for my reenlistment because my original career counselor had turned over, which essentially swapped the duties, with another individual, and they needed an ample enough amount of time to process my paperwork. My department head called me while I was on a live.
I saw that live.
Right, and he told me that the executive officer was putting my reenlistment on the plan of the week. Once something goes on the plan of the week, it's happening. Because that means that the captain is gonna be there. So in doing so, this guy randomly, again, another random, pops up out of nowhere. I did 26 years in the Air Force, da-da-da. You're not gonna re-enlist. I'm gonna see to it that you don't re-enlist. I'm gonna be honest, I was a little shook. You know what I'm saying? You don't just make statements like that haphazardly. So in my mind, I'm like, well, who is this guy? Like, well, what gives you the confidence to be able to say this? Then again, just like I stated, when you let a person talk long enough, they'll reveal exactly what they think and what they feel. Come to find out, he wasn't active duty. He was in the reserves. So now I'm just like, so what kind of pull you got being a 26-year reservist? None. So what are you talking about? So when I did the re-enlistment, what he was trying to say is that I was holding up my left hand instead of my right hand. My bracelet has always been on my right hand in every single one of my videos, and my ring has always been on my left hand. So in that, it was just like the words on the garage is what essentially destroyed that narrative because the words were backwards. So when you flip the video,
I didn't see that.
Then you could see that the word caution all the way out from the top of the garage. Well, it would be the bottom from the video, but from the top of the vantage point on the actual video, you could see it flipped and it's my right hand. So again, they tried to push this narrative that it was a fake re-enlistment, that I rented out the space, which is literally the garage of where my boats are, because I'm a small boat instructor. And I'm just like, I've done videos in this garage before. Like, you can go back in my content, and I've literally done videos in this very garage before. So what are you talking about? There were just unsubstantiated claims that if they felt as though they could push a narrative and people would listen to them more, they would say it. And at a certain point, it became a point of desperation. Whatever narrative I can come up with, boom, let me drum it up, let me accept it, let me believe it, boom, let me push it out to the public. And they would get hundreds of people in their live to just listen to them, make certain statements about me, make certain claims about me that were completely fictitious. So when I actually re-enlisted, my question even to them was, what's the next narrative? What's the next one? The re-enlistment was fake. I'm in the process of getting dishonorably discharged, and I'm not PCSing, permanent change of station, which is complete cap because I've already gotten my orders to my next duty station.
So we all know once an allegation goes viral, there's really no stopping it. Tell me, how's it affected your family? I know you explained this, you've been doxxed. You had your command been called for probably a year now, over and over and over again. Just mentally, you're being married, you have, children. Like, how does that affect you and then down from your wife to your kids? Like, just as a whole, the energy and everything going on in your house.
It's been rough. Knowing that, what's being said about you is not indicative of your character. The people closest to you, that know you, that know, pretty much everything about you, that know that this is not who you are, it starts to strain even those relationships. Because then again, we go back to the believe the victim crowd. Individuals that, would tell me, hey, listen, I rock with you. However, I'm gonna err on the side of caution. And in the beginning, I'm gonna, believe her until more conclusive things come out. And that hurt. That hurt a lot. In terms of my specific family, I think it was more so them being affected more so by my mood of being down. I kind of slipped back into depression a little bit because I felt like it had been done and over with. From January to June, I felt relieved. It was done, it was over with. And then she popped back up in June. And I'm just like, here we go again. Here we go again. But at that point, even with talking with my wife, talking with my close friends, it was, you should pursue this legally now. And I'm like, I ain't got no money for no lawyer. I'm gonna have to do a GoFundMe. I don't have $10,000 to $15,000 just sitting around to all these consultation fees. Going through this process really showed me just how much it costs to sue somebody. And when you're suing somebody that is observably broke, essentially you're weighing the cost of, is this really worth it? You know what I'm saying? She's acknowledged on multiple occasions she don't work. And the only thing that she has to her name is her OnlyFans. And that's not to say anything about anybody with an OnlyFans, you know what I'm saying? Do your thing, get your money, that's your body, do what you want with it. But clearly it ain't making enough money that you're using my name to grift on social media. So it is what it is in that regard. When it came to me as an individual, I started going back to therapy because, I'm dealing with certain things in my own personal life. And then I'm feeling like I'm in both a private and a public hell. You know, my grandmother passed away. It'll be 5 years this year. So even trying to work through that emotion, the weekend that I was going to take a break off of social media, that's when the white girl popped up. That's when Tanya popped up. All of a sudden, she's a behavioral analyzer or something that she claimed to be. And it was cap, straight cap. And I'm just like, you all are terrible, terrible. But I can't even properly grieve my deceased grandmother who raised me without having to deal with the nonsense that y'all are doing. So I said, you know what? In order to maintain my mental, not to slip fully into depression and not find comfort in alcohol, because I've never smoked. And on top of that, can't smoke no weed in the military. I've never smoked weed, but you know, that's not something that you could do, so that wouldn't even be an option. I knew, you know, drinking wasn't the way. It wasn't, because even if I were to drink, even after I'm done drinking, the problem is still there. So let's go do things the right way. After I seen her on live talking to a special agent at NCIS, I knew right then and there, I need to go talk to them directly. So I literally got in my car that next Monday, drove to Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam to the NCIS field office, and I spoke with them to open this investigation.
I don't even know how you managed it. I don't even know how you even allowed yourself to even do this interview with me, to even just come and sit and talk.
Prayer and lots of meditation.
Okay, I got one last question, but there was one thing I just remembered before my last question.
Okay.
Who is the Angie girl that said anybody can get it, even your kids? Like, what was the threat to the children? I'm not understanding why everybody, if I have an issue with you,
Right.
it's like women and children that have nothing to do with it should never be brought into it, but that statement made me feel a little weird that you would threaten kids or you would threaten a man about doing harm to his children.
Right.
How'd that come about?
So that was, again, another random person that, you know, supports, you know, them, Tanya and Polisa. And the context of it was, there was another content creator that was on live that was mocking Polisa from the sentiments of how she gets on live, how she's always upset about something, and was just kind of like making a spectacle of her. And what she stated was our side, so to speak, me, one of my homeboys, and the woman that was mocking him, she said that, you know, I'm so sick and tired of hearing this. And if I get a phone call from any of my sisters, because, you know, of course they call each other family and they really are not, and that's indicative of their comments as well as their live streams. You can genuinely tell they don't have a connection whatsoever. It's just mutual dislike of another.
Social parent, basically.
Right. If they call me and tell me anything, if they call me and tell me that they're upset about anything, nobody is safe. Not pets, not children, not anybody. And we went bananas on her. I think her username is like Angie Chronicles or something like that. And she has multiple pages as well. But again, it was same sentiment that you expressed. What do my kids, and we just got a fish. What my fish got to do with social media? Like, well, this is crazy.
It's just listening to your story and going through it, it just seems like all this is just, if it would have just stayed between you and Polisa and you guys handled it, even if it was, I guess the investigation started or reports being filed, that should have just been just between you two.
By the way, she wasn't the only one to threaten. Polisa threatened to shoot me in my head multiple times.
That was the last question I was gonna ask
Yes.
you. Like, when I saw that live, when she said it doesn't matter, I'm gonna stop him no matter what, even if I gotta pull a bullet in his brain.
Yep.
As a man, I mean, just how'd that make you feel to hear those words? Like, when I heard those words, I was taken back a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to hear someone say, I will put a bullet in your brain. I mean, we know social media, but she said that with like conviction. There wasn't a game. It was like if she had the ability to do it and you were standing in front of her, it would be fulfilled.
Right. It took me to a different place mentally. The very first context of her saying it was the white girl. When the white girl came out with her story, because she was in the comment section first, and then she subsequently went on the live thereafter, after she got off work. Because she was like, oh, I gotta get off work, then I'm gonna hop on the live. And she was just, in my mind, trying to convince herself that this actually happened. I'm convinced, you can't tell me nothing different. I know he did it. I know he did it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, no, you don't. You don't know that. And then she makes the statement that you mentioned, you know, I'm gonna stop him. It doesn't matter how. And if I gotta put a bullet in his head, then I will. Where I'm from in North Philly, you don't take stuff like that lightly. But then I have to remember the world that we exist in of social media, that people think and they feel that they can just say anything on the internet and there'll be no repercussions whatsoever. Then you escalate that from, oh, if I would have had my gun in California, I would have put a bullet in his head then. Then you escalate that to, if I ever see him and get the opportunity, I'm gonna take his life. That lets me know that if I ever see you in my vicinity, I will defend myself and I will defend my family. And the only statement that I've ever made is that anybody, even those licensed by them, feels though they're gonna do something to me in public, get your affairs in order. Make sure you got a fresh dress or a fresh suit and 6 close friends willing to carry you, because I'm not gonna miss at all. It's disheartening, to say the least. My love for Black women is what kept me from giving the green light to certain things. Nobody's untouchable. Nobody. Anybody can be found, and that's not to threaten her or threaten anyone else. It's just the reality of life. I'm not safe here in Hawaii. If someone wanted to fly here and do something, they would. A determined person is going to do whatever they need to do to get whatever they need to get accomplished. This is true. And that was the biggest issue from the very beginning. It was very little about her threats, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I was not that moved by her threats. It was just more so, you are that willing to defend a lie that you will publicly state on multiple occasions that you would shoot me in the head. That is nuts to me. But I was more concerned with understanding social media, because I study it, I teach it, literally, of the people whom you are licensing to have that same selective outrage over a situation that they themselves are not fully understanding of. They themselves have no full evidence or contextual understanding of what's even going on. All you see is her going live every day. Blaze, Tanya, and Polisa streaming my lives almost every day. But it wasn't until I told them that I'm building a case against them for cyber stalking and cyber harassment that they stopped doing it. Because I couldn't get them for defamation, slander, or libel, because I haven't lost anything.
You haven't lost anything. So I was just going to ask you, have you lost any of your brand deals or anything like that?
No tangible loss. Even the brands that I've worked with, they've tried to harass them. Articles that have been written on me, they'll write a letter to the editor. They got a couple of those articles taken down. That's just an article. I'm not losing nothing from that article being taken down. I'm still very successful. My bills are paid every month. You know what I'm saying? My social media is literally extra on top of what I'm already doing. So in that, it was just like, this is so hard to try and do, knowing that this person don't even have the income to get a lawyer, which is backtracking into where Angie came into play. Because Angie was apparently her financial backer and was going to be the one that was going to pay for her plane ticket for her to come out here to Hawaii when she talked about the NCIS agent, quote, doing his job. So in that, they ended up issuing her what's called a debarment letter, meaning indefinitely for the rest of her life, she cannot come to this island and frequent the bases that I would frequent and get the amenities of a veteran, which is, in my opinion, almost the same as a dishonorable discharge.
That's serious.
You've served the country. You were, however you were discharged, because I don't know the full extent of her discharge. Okay. I know it wasn't dishonorable. I know that. And then you already talk about receiving disability, right? Which means you have a connection to the VA. And then you get a debarment letter saying that the very country that you served and one of the bases, you can't even go on it to frequent the amenities of it. That is horrible. And then posted it as if it was a flex, not realizing, no, this is actually bad, like really bad. And what she didn't recognize too was that they were monitoring her social media the entire time while the investigation was going on. They were monitoring her social media, all of the lives, all of the phone calls that she made, that she recorded while on live, all of that was retained as evidence. So all I had to do was sit back, tell my story the same way I've told it from the very beginning. The only thing that I had ever apologized to her for was what I didn't even know took place with inside the confines of that vehicle. I don't have to force nobody to be around me, and I darn sure ain't never gonna sexually assault nobody. That was just bonkers to me. But all of these individuals that keep on popping up, I've even told some of my close friends that I know want to defend me. nah, you can't come on my live because they're watching me right now. And I don't want you to catch some residual smoke behind what they're mad at me over. Because then they'll go and mass report that person's page. They'll go and try to put that person's address out on social media. They'll go and try to contact that person's significant other or their siblings. That's the type of stuff that they would do. Because anyone that defended me, they wanted to try and silence them. But they didn't recognize that I was already behind the scenes doing what I needed to do legally to ensure that I was cleared. Now I have federal documentation stating that this is done and this is over with. And the only way that this can be reopened is if she finally agrees to an interview by NCIS, which she has on multiple occasions denied and turned down because they wouldn't let her record the interview. So in that, I'm thinking to myself, you're going on this huge social media campaign talking about you want to change sexual assault culture, you want victims to be heard, X, Y, and Z, but you've never filed anything against me. And you've only brought this to the, quote, court of public opinion. And when the court of public opinion tells you, completely devoid of me, we don't believe you, now all of a sudden you want to contact NCIS. So I said, I'm going to do the exact same and let them hash out what's real and what's not. And in that, they were just like, we tried to contact her multiple times. You've literally called almost every office in the world, literally. So let's come and talk to you. They drove from Jackson, North Carolina to Fayetteville to meet with her. And she refused the interview because they wouldn't let her record. That is not standard practice of any law enforcement agency to allow a civilian to record an ongoing investigative interview. And they told her the same thing they told me. We're going to do the interview. We're going to conduct the interview. And if you would like the transcripts from the interview, you can file a Freedom of Information Act report and the information is yours. It wasn't here and now, just like that entire group likes to do. It wasn't content. So in that, she didn't want it. So until she genuinely files something, this is done and over with. So for me, my final nail in the coffin was re-enlisting because they said that I wouldn't. And then 2, getting this federal documentation so that any brand moving forward that they try to contact, that they try to harass, all I got to do is forward them that paperwork saying that, hey, this guy's cleared by the Department of the Navy, more specifically NCIS, he's good to go. Because I know that they're not going to stop. And in me ignoring them, I know they're going to escalate. But in doing so, I recognize that the buck has to stop. It has to stop at some point. And I'm tired. Tired.
Quick question. Mm-hmm. Can I get a copy of that document?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'll make that available to you. And also, too, there's a form called an R-84, which is a disposition report. Okay. At the end of my paperwork, it says that an R-84 was not necessary because I had never been administratively apprehended. They never came and picked me up. They never fingerprinted me. They never swabbed me for no DNA or anything like that, okay. Which is the part of it, and I had to clarify this on TikTok, which is the part that clears me. If, in fact, they would have found me guilty, they would have arraigned me immediately. They would have arrested me immediately. There's a jail, literally on island, a military jail that they would have taken me to hold me until JAG could have arraigned me for court. They would have booked me, they would have took my fingerprints, and they would have got my DNA. That did not take place. They contacted my chain of command and my commanding officer. His name was redacted because all PII in the Freedom of Information Act report, all of the PII, the personal identifiable information, was redacted. So both her name, her username, Tanya's username, my commanding officer's name, all of that was redacted. My name and my address was in there because I requested the report. So I'll make sure you get that as well.
Okay, thank you, because I definitely want to go over that. Lastly, I know that was my last one, but something else just popped in my head. How does this affect you helping people online now and bringing people on your platform? Has this really just put you back? You're just cutting it off? It's like, hey, I can't trust anybody now. How's that affected how you are on social media now?
I say it's made me more cautious. Okay. One of the things I've always recognized, and I was taught as a child, that if you're going to genuinely help somebody, you're going to genuinely help them. No strings attached, no narratives attached to it. If I'm genuinely going to help you, I'm going to genuinely help you. One of the things that I do more so now is I ask for proof. So if someone tells me they're going through X, Y, and Z, there's been people that will hit me up. You know, I've literally given thousands of dollars of my own money, not money I've made on social media, but my own money of people that have hit me up. Hey, I'm a couple, $100 behind on rent. Can you, what I'm saying, share my GoFundMe? And I'm like, okay, well, how much do you need? Oh, I need about $250. I know I got $250. Let me go ahead and send it. But this isn't something that I gotta make a video about every single time. This isn't something that I have to boast and brag about every single time. However, it does make you more cautious because the larger your platform becomes, the more you have to think, are they asking me for the sole purpose of knowing that given my platform that I'll be able to get the story out? Or are they asking me for a specific response to try and weaponize that against me? Because people have done that to other content creators to say, oh, I sent you a message and it sat there for 3 weeks and you never responded. Well, I get hundreds of messages a day. So give me time, let me get to it. And then if I get to it, I don't have an obligation. I'm not obligated to help you. I do it out the kindness of my heart. So when I have situations like this happen, it makes me apprehensive towards just blindly accepting things, which I believe nobody should do either. Another thing too, now I recently did a meetup with some of my moderators in Virginia this past year. And one of the things was not being the only man in the house. So in that, there were other males there as well. And anytime we all came together, unless we were sleeping, everybody had their own separate room. I would never put myself in a situation like that. However, these are people that I genuinely consider friends that let me not say no, because you never truly know anything.
Yeah.
I felt as though they wouldn't try to mess me over like the former situation that I dealt with. And then moving forward, if it's not someone that close to me, and we all, let's say we're meeting up in, I don't know, California again, right? Y'all getting your own hotel rooms, y'all own Airbnbs, and I'm gonna have my own spot because I'm good on that.
Yeah.
I don't even want there to be a thought. Oh, well, let's go back to, nope, I'm good on that. We're gonna meet in a public location. There's gonna be cameras around. Somebody gonna have their phone out, somebody's gonna be recording. And low key, it kind of makes you a little paranoid. Because now the interactions that you have with people, whether you're meeting them in public, whether you're meeting them for a business meeting, et cetera, you're asking yourself in the back of your mind, are they gonna try to take this event and use it for clout? Are they gonna try to take this event and twist it and pervert it? So what do you need to do? Number one, bring somebody with you, especially if I'm meeting with a woman, bring somebody with me. Number two, go to a public location that I know has cameras so they can't say anything took place the way that they perceive it to have taken place. And then number three, come in separate vehicles.
Cautious, you gotta take all of those. That's all I got for you.
Definitely.
Like I say, I appreciate you coming and taking time out and giving me more context into my investigation. I still got a lot of more videos I wanna watch, and appreciate it.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
What up, bro? How you
What's
been,
going on,
bro?
man?
It's been a couple weeks since the last time I saw you, man. So, how you
Man,
feeling?
it's been a roller coaster of emotions. A lot of things have unfolded since the beginning of the series up until now, especially on social media. My goodness gracious, it's been crazy.
Yeah, I've only popped in a few times, on social media. I mean, everybody saw those. I haven't made a video since like November of like 20th or something like that. I haven't made a video. November 30th, something like that. I haven't made a video. I haven't really been on. I've been just staying off and then just, working on this project and things like that. So, but just where do you go from here, bro? Like after, I'm gonna tell you what had me in a chokehold though when I was reading, made me sound like I was remedial, was that NCIS report, and then that email of I guess it's the is it the disbar? No, it's the congressional inquiry papers.
Yeah, people
that
don't
stuff was
realize. People don't realize just how hard that was to read because it was like the way she set it up. It was like my face, but it was like transparent behind the actual words.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I pity the fool that got to read that.
Had me in a chokehold, bro. I sound like Floyd Mayweather, bro. Like it was bad. But
Absolutely.
I'm glad I made that disclaimer in the beginning. Like I know I'm about to chop this up, so y'all be patient with me because it was bad.
Oh,
and then
indeed.
and then it was the the redacted NCIS form, man. Like,
Oh, yes, that was rough because, like, certain parts of it, if you don't physically have the document in front of you, which is very real, by the way, and not a
yeah,
script, I don't know why it's being called that. It is very difficult, preemptively without writing in, okay, this is where her name is, this is where his name is, this is where her name is, this is where his name is at. And people don't recognize, and also, too, I wanted to clear this up. That was an executive summary. I'm still
yeah,
waiting on the actual full investigation, which encompasses a lot more aspects than what was given to you. And I have yet to receive that. But that was an executive summary of everything that went down. And again, still to this day, no filing, no interview. So,
man,
you know.
that must be tough. Just like, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think it's gonna, my opinion, it's never. I don't think it's gonna leave social media, but like, what are your thoughts? Like, how are you feeling? Like, now that you've got the the NCIS summary and it says it's closed until she does the interview, like, how do you move on
Right.
from here?
I think from a logistical perspective, um, it's been like a roller coaster of emotions.
Okay.
Just when I think that they're not worried about me anymore, they pop up with something new, and they pop up with something new. Then it's just like I had to recognize that the more I engage them, the more I fan the flame, and it's gotten to a point where it's no longer about the acknowledgement of a fictitious story. Now it's literally just about attention. I say this all the time. I liken it to parenting. Sometimes I push back at people when they say, oh, that's a bad child or it's a bad child. We recognize that when children aren't getting attention through the normal means of social behavior, what do they turn to? Antisocial behavior. Not necessarily because they're bad children, they just want attention. What I recognize with these individuals is they've told so many lies and people are so hip to the lies. It's no longer about the story. It's just about my attention. Now, people can call that self-centered, arrogant, narcissistic, if you will. And it's just like, no, it's the truth. You have an individual whom they've been consistently turning on each other. That's another thing that I've seen too that's really been like mind-boggling. And then the opening up of um, what really happened from the very beginning and how things have been twisted and perverted and used for individuals' own personal gain. I think that part just kind of blew me away. Um, I'm also very reflective. Um, and I've had to draw back from a great deal of individuals that have attempted to add on to this mess, as well as perpetuate sentiments of the original individual.
Okay.
And it opened up a different, I guess, viewpoint of how deadly clout actually is. No pun intended. People will genuinely run with lies, push narratives, all for the sake of getting some attention. However, when that attention no longer benefits them, it's like Mario, they just run for the hills. And then they start what I call these disassociation campaigns to whereby now they're trying to get back in the good graces of all those whom they messed over and or attempted to assist in messing over. And to that, I have absolutely no respect for that at all. Just to kind of walk down a little bit each of the individuals um, that perpetuated these sentiments. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was that the biggest supporters of this individual have now not only turned on her, but told the truth about what it is that she tried to state in the very beginning and how aspects of stories that they've told her of their own personal situations that she's twisted and perverted and taken from them, namely two very important aspects of the quote story that she's told, because that's exactly what it is, a fictitious story. The whole idea of me, quote unquote, barging in the bathroom, going for her neck, which she's now trying to state that I actually did choke her, which is ridiculous in and of itself, because
Yeah,
she
because
then tries to say that, go ahead.
it doesn't go with the original story.
It doesn't. And then she tried to say that she was going to blindside me in a courtroom setting when she has yet to file anything, yet to do an interview. It literally factually makes no sense. And what I've seen is the escalation of the story for more support. And what I realized is that the last thing that I'm going to do this year is focus on engaging her as opposed to engaging lawmakers, engaging these large streaming services to pick this docuseries up so that they can show the world just how tumultuous and vitriolic people can be on social media, especially with lies. The next aspect of it is the quote, "Do you want me to straighten you out?" I recently found out there was another content creator by the name of, and she gave me permission to say this, Lady Black Angel, was a story that she shared with her from the very beginning. And that aspect of her story, she took out and inserted into this, which was disgusting in and of itself.
So basically what she's saying is she's taking bits and pieces of other victim stories and she's adding it to make up her own story.
Absolutely. One of her biggest supporters, her name is Tanya Michelle. She literally walked out a timeline of how she took her story and perverted it and used aspects of her story, namely the neck choking portion, to try and push a narrative about me. Then we walk back, and I remember you talking about the guy Blaze that was always in the forefront of things for his own personal gain, overshadowing everything that she was doing. There's now been recordings released to whereby they didn't even want him in the very beginning to even be a part of this. The original individual policer, she even went so far as to call him an idiot. I mean, we all knew that, but it's just really interesting how people will come together that genuinely don't like one another to quote unquote attempt to take down another person with nothing more than lies and false narratives. And I think that's the biggest part that really, it did something to me internally, but I started to pray this specific prayer. Lord, to the ancestors in the universe, it is my hope and desire that they never get another good night's rest until the truth finally comes out. And you can tell on their faces the bags that are under these folk eyes, the way in which they speak, the way in which the frequency in which they go live now. It's not the same. It's not nearly the same because people are now hip. People are now hip to the lies. People are now hip to the false narratives to whereby they're now trying to take other situations and pervert it to suit their narrative. And people are just like, hey, we see this going on, but we still believe you lying. Like, don't try to flip this to suit you. And I realized that the place in which people are putting me in as not just a content creator, but as a social media influencer, I have to be more cognizant of how I engage people. Because now literally everything that I'm doing is put under a microscope.
Absolutely.
Everything that I say, every person that comes out with a story, so to speak, it's just like, they don't care how much they lie. They don't care how many false narratives they push. They don't care whose lives are ruined. They don't care what the residual impact of their sentiments are. All they care about in that moment is that attention that they're getting. And that's the part that kind of messes me up the most. But I will say this. I've been very empowered as of lately from all of the men that have been watching this, more specifically the Black men that have been watching this docuseries and, messaging me on Instagram. And I welcome you all. Continue to message me, telling me their stories and how they've become more empowered to fight back against false allegations that has taken place in their life. Now, I also want to be clear about something as well. And I stated this from the very beginning. Do not utilize this as a means to devalue, diminish, or degrade anyone that has told a story factually about a sexual assault experience that they've had and try to use me as an example of, I know them folk was lying, because we can have those conversations independent of one another and not allow this to be weaponized against those individuals. I've always stated from the very beginning, the quote, believe the victim crowd. I said, I understand wholeheartedly. Only thing I will ask of you is that you look at the information, watch the videos, look at the information that has been presented, and then make an informed decision from there. I also recognize that there are going to be some people that care nothing about evidence, that care nothing about videos, that care nothing about this docuseries as a whole. They're going to be committed to it because they just don't like me. And I'm okay with that. However, truth, transparency, and authenticity will always stand the test of time. And the reality is that this has all been made up. However, in the absence of an actual filed document, the question then becomes, what do we do about that? I want to engage lawmakers to find a way to address these types of situations of false allegations that could very well ruin individuals' lives. And once it's made known, public and clear, that this individual, either through their own admission or through the factual submission of evidence of the accused, that there is a consequence to this individual. Now, for me specifically, for my situation, this individual has escalated so much so that they've made death threats to me. And I don't know if you know this, well, not you specifically, but people know this. You cannot just get on the internet and call for the death of a United States service member and then advocate for others to do the same. So there is an ongoing and open investigation against this individual for the threats that were made.
I was
And
just
that's
going to ask you
very
about
real.
that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
very real. And things take time. Things take time.
Well, we know investigations are going to take time, and it's not TV. Like, people catching, when you watch all these crime shows like Law and Order, or actually NCIS, like Los Angeles, like they're catching criminals within an hour, but that's not actually how it works. Like, you have to actually do the investigation, contact all the people, then you got to review all the evidence, and then you got to see if this evidence legally, they can charge somebody with, how they can charge them, how much time they're going to be able to get. Is it even worth even going to court for it? So
Yep.
I know it takes a long process. I'm just, like I say, I told you before, I don't even know how I'd have been off social media already. Like, I'd have been like,
well, here's the deal.
Forget it.
I'm going to be honest. I gave massive thought to quitting TikTok. I'm going to be 100% honest. And, to my supporters, y'all know my heart. However, I recognize simultaneously that this fight is about more than just me. This fight is about more than just what I'm going through. And there is times where we have to prioritize the sentiments of others, while also simultaneously recognizing that while this has a lot to do with me, it also has a lot to do with the other individuals that are going through this that might not have the same access to the same resources that I have access to, that might not be able to clear their name at the frequency and or expeditious manner in which I did. So for those individuals, I want to give them hope. And I also want to lean on the community. There are several people that have reached out to me completely unrelated, not with a story of their own, but of someone that they knew that has gone through this and what it has done to them mentally, how it has ruined families, how it has literally it has had people serve jail time, for this very thing, and in that, I will say that it is your responsibility to push this out far and wide, to ensure if you have connections to lawmakers, to put this in front of their eyes. If you know someone at a major streaming service that can pick this up and get this story out for the world to see, you need to do so, because this is not okay. This is not okay in any shape, form, or fashion. And people should not just be able to get on the internet and just say anything about anyone, especially in the absence of factual information. Now we recognize that people have every right to the freedom of speech. However, hate speech will never be covered under that. And freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequence. So we want to do things the right way, which to me goes to lawmakers and getting some sort of legislative process in the works, as well as we recognize that there are laws against false reporting on both the civilian side of the house as well as the military side of the house. False official statements on official government documentation. We recognize that. However, in the absence of the filing of such, where do we go from there? Do we just diminish it to online trash talking when people's real lives are being affected by this? When people's real jobs are being called as a result of this? Brands that I'm working with have been reached out to as a result of this to attempt to either, one, tarnish my image, or two, take money out of my pocket? They failed at every single thing that they've done. However, what I'm holding space for is the individuals whom were actually successful. The individuals whom didn't get an opportunity to defend themselves. The individuals whom didn't have a platform to defend themselves. That's who I'm standing in the gap for actual sexual assault victims that have never been heard, for actual victims that wish they had an opportunity to sit in front, nonetheless, an NCIS agent that drove over 2 hours to meet with someone to, quote, hear their story, but for someone to just sit down and listen to them. Police officers that have not heard them, family members that have not heard them. That's why I welcome. My inbox on Instagram is open. I speak 1906. Talk to me. I'm here to be a listening ear.
Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest, one of my biggest fears about even like kind of highlighting the topic, was because I was afraid that it's gonna allow people to discredit women just by saying, you know, well, we saw this on TikTok, so we know you probably lying. And then, you know, especially when they start when women well, first, most women don't even say anything about it. You know what I mean? They don't even go to the police about it because they're worried about, you know, being dragged through the mud, have their name and image dragged through the mud. And then even on social media, it's even more dangerous for a woman to even put it out there on social media.
Correct.
Because we're, you know, people are automatically just going to just jump on that, and they're going to have some people who are going to believe her, and then you're going to have those people who don't believe her, but they're going to escalate that and then just, you know, pretty much demolish her on social media. But I pray, though, that, you know, that this does bring more awareness. I do believe that, you know, regular people like us, we don't really get our stories told. You know, when you get the celebrities who go through this, then it's different because they have such a massive following, and then they're celebrities and people are following them. So when they say something about it, it just spreads like wildfire. But when it's, you know,
Correct.
regular people who, you know, get sexually assaulted on the street, you know, their stories never get told. It never hits mainstream. It doesn't hit the news. It's just a police report. And then they're like, well, you know, where did you go from here if you don't know the person? You know, if it's not a relative, or if it's not a boyfriend, or, you know, or a husband, if it's just a random person who either, you know, rapes you or sexually assaults you on the street, you don't know who this person is, you make a report, nothing ever happens. So it's just like, you know, I think this is something that needs to be talked about a lot more. And there does need to be some form of law put in place. I believe that people just can't just do this type of stuff online.
Right. Correct.
You know, especially if you're not taking any real legal steps to, you know, if I'm a victim and I know you're a predator, I'm not just going to do everything on social media. Like, I'm actually going to take steps to get you off the streets, because my main goal is, one, you affected my life, but now you could be affecting someone else's life. And I think it would be on me to get you off the street, especially if I know who you are. I know you. I know, you know, where you work at. I know what state you live in. I know all your social media handles. You know, like, you would be in a prime example of someone who would actually go full force on you to get you off the streets legally, instead of just leaving everything on social media. And one of the other things that I have a problem with is, you know, people are, you know, saying I've been wanting people on TikTok to believe me. And I'm like, we can't do anything to you. Even if we believed you or not, we can't arrest you. We can't charge you. We can't sentence you. The people that you need to be convincing of this is an actual law enforcement agency or federal agent. You know, we can't do anything. People on TikTok, we can't do anything. We can just listen to your story, but we can't do anything. You have to actually go and make the police report. You have to go sit down and, you know, do the interview. And then that's when they gather all the information. You show them all the evidence that you have, and then they take it and they go after you. We can't do anything. So I get the concept of going to social media, but if you're gonna my thing is, let's do it legally. He's get found guilty, then we hop on social media, then we destroy him even more. You know what I mean? Because now you're found guilty. Now you're guilty.
Let me also state this too, because then you have some dissenting voices that will say, and I saw these criticisms after the last episode, that you know, who are you to tell a victim when to report or when to tell their story, right? And this is the issue that I've seen. For someone to make it appear as though that this individual is literally just a danger to society, and then to not take certain steps at the bare minimum it makes it look to individuals as if there's no factual basis to your story, because there are other people whom literally wish they had a fraction of the attention that you are getting to legitimately tell their story.
Yeah.
When you think about the rhetoric that's being used, this individual stated, when I was younger, I went to police and they didn't do anything. Very valid. We've heard multiple stories of that.
Absolutely.
However, you can't say in one breath, F the police, but then you go and harass federal agents. That literally makes no sense. That's literally a step up, not a step down. So then you look at the actions of the individual and then the statements that they're utilizing to the tune of, again, the NCIS agents that drove over 2 hours to meet with this person, and they declined the interview as per their documentation. Their documentation states that they left the police department before the interview could be conducted because they weren't allowed to record on their own personal device, which has literally never been a standard practice for any law enforcement agency across the country. These are things you can factually prove. There are law enforcement officials and agencies that can corroborate that. Yeah. They also stated, same thing they stated to me, after this investigation is over, you can file what's called a Freedom of Information Act, a FOIA report, and you can get all of the documentation. You can get all of the interviews. That wasn't good enough because it goes back to the aforementioned statement that the individual made. Why would I go to 12 perfect strangers when I could put millions of eyes on this? To where by now, victims that would actually like to speak up and want their story told, I want to say in this moment, still speak up. Still tell your story, and don't allow this individual and their antics, because that's what they are at this point. They're antics for attention, to diminish or devalue what you've gone through, to push all of that to the side of what you've experienced, because you want to put your story out there. You have evidence to the contrary of what that individual was saying. But I would say to the individuals whom literally will seek to try and destroy someone's life, I want you to think. Because when the smoke clears and the dust settles, karma is finna spin the block something decent. And it may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be next week. It may not be next month. The truth will come out. And when it does, because these past few weeks, my God.
That's what I'm saying. Like once I finish, once this episode, once everything is finished, all the episodes, all the once everything is completely done, I'm not coming back to this. Like the only way that I would revisit this is if I see you on TikTok in handcuffs and going to jail. Like that would be the only reason why I would ever revisit this. I'm like, because I don't, like I say, as I stated already, I don't believe it's gonna go off of social media. I believe it's just gonna live on social media, and I just hope that you find some type of resolve to all this, because I know being a large influencer on TikTok, I mean, even on Instagram and on YouTube, I just hope that there's some type of resolve that you can continue living life and it just doesn't continue to hang over your head for however long you stay on social media.
Well, see, here's the reality of that, and there's a dual thought process that lives here at that junction, right? On one side of the house, there are people that literally hate me, and I get that. There's people that don't like me, and I get that too. They'll never let this go, because that's the one thing that they can hold on to, be it true or false. It's definitely false, but they can hold on to attempt to hold over my head. In that, the other thought process is in play, that I just have to disengage. I have to focus on the true goal, which is putting this docu-series on the forefront in front of the millions of eyes of people that can actually do something about what I went through and what others are going through, and shift the focus away from those individuals, stop engaging those individuals, because I'm gonna be honest with you, it is very stressful. Let me retract that. It's very irritating to have someone stalk your live streams every single time you go live, to snatch every single video that you've done and try to twist it and spin a narrative to suit this exact situation. However, at some point, somebody has to disengage and disengage genuinely. Now, have there been times where I've been petty? Absolutely. I've made merch about these goofies. You know, I've made catchphrases and slogans about these goofies. But I had to start going back and purging my account of their presence. And I'm still doing it. Because in that, I recognize in those moments, you're not about to stress me out for free. You're not about to, put me through the ringer and I not get something out of it. Because that's been my biggest issue with the people that say, well, why don't you sue these people? You know, why don't you take them to court? Well, the reality is that, number one, no disrespect to them, they're broke. It's the reality of it. They've gone on live and stated it themselves. So there's no monetary gain to be gotten from it. They can't pay my attorney fees that I would even have to petition the assistance of. Because just like you said in the one, I don't have 10, 20, 30 G's for a senseless lawsuit, or what we call a frivolous lawsuit. I don't have money like that. Nor have I ever professed myself to have that type of money. Then, me being in the military, living in Hawaii, traveling to California or to North Carolina where I would have to do so, the logistics on that, bananas. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Knowing that this individual has no desire to take this to a legal standpoint because they genuinely know in their heart of hearts that they're full of cow poop. Straight up.
I think people are burnt out. I think people
very
are
much so.
out. I think
and even I will even say on the standpoint of my own audience, my own supporters, I speak, and whatever they decide to call me, why are you still addressing this? We know she's lying. We know that whole group of goofies are lying. Why are you still giving this energy? And in that, people have to recognize it's easy to disassociate yourself. It's easy to draw back from something that you're not personally affected by. It's easy for you to say, oh, y'all take social media too seriously when you're not being affected by it, or you don't have the platform that's being impacted by it. And I say that as respectfully as possible, because the larger your platform becomes, you think you got problems now, wait till you get the platform that I have or others and or bigger. And the problems become more than just, oh, you said something crazy on a live stream, or you said, or somebody caught you out in public doing some nonsense, to the point where people are literally trying to impact your real life, your real job, your real family, death threats, the doxing. For those of you that don't know what doxing is short for document dropping, which is essentially the public divulgence of private information with malicious intent. My deceased grandmother was doxed. That hurt me to my core, but I recognize these goofies ain't finna pull up on my block. But it still hurt. Why? Because why did they have to get there? Why did they have to get to that point? All because someone was lying? And the very person that did it, look at how those, one thing about them tables, they gonna turn.
Bro,
and the
I
very
do
person
not
that did it.
envy y'all. I do not envy y'all with these big platforms, bro, because I wouldn't want to be under a microscope all the time. This is why when we first started, when people were making those videos or like, you don't have a career because you don't have a big social media follow, I'm like, bro, that don't mean I don't make money. I'm not a social media guy. Because I see what happens on social media, but just those y'all, you and y'all large platforms, bro. It's too much responsibility. Like that's just responsibility that I don't want. I mean, I know in my regular life I got to be careful of what I say because it's it might influence somebody to do something. But that's maybe 20 people. Like when you got 2 million people, you got to really be careful of what you say because
Absolutely.
people
and
will.
let me also state this too. None of us are above being held accountable at all. There's been multiple people that I've even called out myself. You know what I'm saying? However, with things like this that are so sensitive, especially to the tune of a false allegation, and the individuals that have stood behind this person knowing that they were lying, that's not accountability at all. None of that is accountability. That's you perpetuating a lie to attempt to ruin the life of another individual, all for personal gain or the perception of personal gain. Because to be honest with you, a good friend of mine, she put it the best. There's been a spirit of suffrage over all of these individuals. And when I say I'm tapped in, those of you that understand what I mean, right hand to the ancestors, you know what that means. I'm tapped in. They've not been successful. And I've been covered this entire time. I pray more now than I've ever prayed in my life. I'm not perfect. I'm not above being held accountable. I'm not above making a mistake, but I know when I haven't done something. And something as egregious as this, nah, I'm not accepting that. And I'm going to fight tooth and nail so that not only my supporters, but anyone that comes across this knows that I'm innocent wholeheartedly. And this individual wants nothing more than social media clout. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
I think everything that's just happened and just pretty much just proved what I was saying about the psychological effects of social media. Like that was the whole point of doing this. And everything is just playing out exactly how I said it would play out. But now, man, like I say, I just wanted to tap in with you and just see how you was doing with the follow-up and, hope,
Definitely.
like I say, I hope everything gets resolved and, you don't really have to, go through this for the next 2 years on social media.
Listen, we moving on to bigger and better things. You know what I'm saying? My next book, I Speaktionary, which is a comedic social media dictionary, is complete. So I'm about to start, ironing out my campaign for promo for that. My poetry book, Metaphorically Speaking, that's coming by my birthday, March 20th. So we moving forward with our projects, brother. The next big project that I have too is called the Speakers Network, where there's some people that call it like a diet TED Talk, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to be doing is utilizing everyday people to educate on things that they're passionate about. No fee whatsoever. The only qualification is to educate. And we're going to highlight these individuals on our Instagram as well as a specialized TikTok page to put them in the forefront, put everyday people in the forefront. Another thing that I'm doing is Small Business Saturdays. On any Saturday you come across my live stream, we're going to be boosting and promoting small businesses, minority-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, et cetera, putting them in the forefront. They may not have money for promo, money for advertising. Come on to I Speaks Live, I Speak 1906 over on TikTok, and get your business promoted. We're going to give each individual 3 to 5 minutes, and then we're going to move on to the next person, and to the next person, and to the next person, until our heart's content, and we shut the live down. Then I'm going to take that, and I'm going to put it up on my YouTube. That way it gets blasted out to a larger audience for them to be able to promote themselves, to get themselves out there, because people deserve that. And that's what we got to do. And that's what I recognize I got to do. We got to continue moving onto bigger and better projects and not continue focusing on them, and more so getting this in front of the eyes of individuals that absolutely need to see this, that absolutely need to engage with this. So I'm going to leave on this note. If you are someone that has witnessed this, that has experienced this, you have a responsibility to get this in front of individuals that can change, if not bring about legislation to correct this. If you have connections, if you are someone that knows of a major streaming service that could pick this up and get this in front of the eyes of more people, individual stories need to be told. And this needs to get out. Pick it up. Send it to them. Get it out there. I firmly believe that while this may start here, this is less about me and more about the impact that we're going to leave for future generations of individuals, content creators, influencers, et cetera, to understand that there is a penalty to your actions. There is a penalty to your false allegations, and that you just cannot do these types of things with absolutely no consequence. And thank you to everyone that has held space and supported me, as well as supported other individuals that have gone through this as well. And moving forward, we're moving on to bigger and better things.
Hey, I heard that, man. Like I say, man, hope everything works out for you. I'm not going to keep you any much longer, man. Let you get back to your life and, just grind everything out.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
All right, you take care.
All right, you as well.